Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, my awesome students. Today, I'm Novi, your elective English teacher. Will give you the very first material in the year of 2021. This is our second semester, and hopefully that this year will be very far better than the previous one, even though we're still trapped in the situation called pandemic COVID-19. But I hope you still manage to survive. Never give up. Stay strong, stay sane, stay happy after all. Okay, today our very first material will be short story, entertainment and fiction. And then before we start, so let me ask you, did you used to listen to your parents telling you a bedtime story when you were a child? Or do you like reading a fiction? If you did or if you do, I think that this material will be very fun to follow. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's get started. Have you ever read these stuffs? These books are very viral in their days. Harry Potter. There are 7 books of Harry Potter, from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone until the last one, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. All books are bestseller. Is anyone here who becomes a Potterhead? Who doesn't know the romantic story between Edward and Bella? Maybe you never read the book, but I bet you have watched at least one of 5 Twilight Saga movies on TV. The last but not the least, Dylan. I used to spend only a day reading each book of Dylan. I like the story very much because, well, I am included into the generation of 90s. However, I do know that as a millennial generation, you may regard that reading those books physically are so old school, and maybe you are more interested in reading something online. So, have you ever read something from this application before, just like from Wattpad or Webtoon? I think it's alright, it's okay, as long as the content from this application is suitable for you and give positive impact on your life. In short, the definition of the narrative text is a piece of text which tells a story and entertains the reader or the listener. So, the function of writing the short story is similar. That is to entertain the reader also. Okay class, now we will discuss more on a short story. There are some differences between short story and the novels that I have told you in the beginning of the slides. A short story is a fictional story, okay, the same with the novel, but it is shorter and more focused than a novel. Since it takes place over fewer pages than a novel, the author has to economize and get to the point quicker. Therefore, a short story usually deals with a single character or characters meeting for a particular reason. The short story is usually more limited in time and space than a novel, and it often has a surprise ending. It is important to note that in fictional genres, there are no absolute rules. So, short stories may vary from the very general description above. But we can conclude that short story is first fictional, short and focused, limited in characters and scope, limited in time, and the last one, limited in space. Those specifications, those characteristics differentiate the short story with the novel. After giving some introduction about today's material, as I have reminded you about the narrative text, I give the little bit explanation about the short story. Now, I'd like to tell you the goal of learning this material. So, in the end, I hope that you are able to analyze the given short story and you can create your own short story too. And despite still being in a pandemic situation, I still hope that you can do all the tasks collaboratively with your friends, as I will divide you into several groups. To be able to analyze the short story, there are some steps that we have to take. As you can see on the slide, the first thing you have to do when you want to analyze a short story is you have to read the story, of course. And the second one, after reading the story, try to identify the writer's main idea. Summarize the story in your own words using no more than 2 sentences. And the third, you will have to read the story again, but this time, don't forget to take some notes because you will have to write some detailed information about the story. What detailed information that you should write? The first one is the character. Who is the main character? Who are the side characters if there are? And the action that they did in the story, the thought that can reflect their personalities or anything. And the second one, you will have to take some notes on when did the story happen or where does the story take place. The third is you will have to take some notes on the plot. If you still remember that, because it belongs to narrative text, so it also has the same generic structure with the narrative text, that the short story should have some part of orientation, complication, and resolution. In the orientation part, the writer will introduce the reader about the character and the setting. Meanwhile, in the complication, the writer may write something about the conflict between the characters or the problem that the characters should face. And the last one, resolution, is the problem solving or in the end of the story. Okay, don't forget to write the main idea or the theme. Maybe this time after you read for the second one, the main idea, the theme of the story will be different from the main idea that you get from the first reading, because you have read the detailed information. Right now you may have some different point of view, different main idea from the first, different thought. Okay, and the next is point of views. In writing the short story, the writer can use the first person point of view or the omniscient or outsider point of view. In the first person point of view, the writer is included into the character that plays a part in the story. Meanwhile, when the writer uses the omniscient or the outsider point of view, it means that he or she doesn't involve in the story, but the writer is the one who knows everything. And the last one is optional coda. It is optional because the part of coda will maybe exist or no. It is optional, right? So the difference of using coda you can see from the message or the moral value. If the writer writes the message or moral value explicitly in their writing, it means that there is a coda. But if there is no explicitly written the message or the moral value of the short story, it means that there is no coda in their short story. I will give you some sample of short story. Let's try to analyze. I'll read it. Please listen or read along with me if you want. John slumped in the armchair. His arms crossed and his face was full with a gloomy frown. He was a new kid in town, but no one knew he was even there. John didn't like anybody, and they didn't like him. All day he sat in the armchair, staring out the window. Through the window, he saw a gigantic hollow tree and a vacant lot. The tree seemed to call him. He stood slowly up, then started to walk towards the tree. Its branches was very thin, and its roots dug into the ground like claws. The tree had thorns all over it. John tried to turn away from the tree, but he couldn't. A mysterious force was pulling him into the hollow. John never reappeared, but no one noticed or cared. This is the analysis of the short story. The character. The main character is John, an introvert boy who didn't have friends. The setting. The story takes place in a day at his home. The plot. As you have seen in the first paragraph, it is called orientation. John, an introvert boy who didn't have friends, was sitting in an armchair, lonely and gloomy every day. The second paragraph, called complication, consists of the story that when the main character, John, looked out a window, he saw a gigantic hollow tree as if it was calling him, so he walked out towards the tree. However, it was a mysterious tree which suddenly caught him with its branches and thorns, so he couldn't get out. And the last part is resolution. In the third paragraph, it is implicitly written that John never came back to his home since then, but nobody cared about losing him. Okay, the next is the theme. The theme of the short story is the introvert boy lost mysteriously after walking toward a gigantic hollow tree. And the point of views, the writer used the omniscient or the outsider or the third person point of views. As you can see that he is likely to use the third pronoun like he or his. And the last one, coda. Okay, in this short story there is no coda because it is not explicitly written the message or the moral value that want to be delivered by the writer. However, it is implicitly told that we shouldn't let anyone alone. At least we should try to be kind to them in case they need a help, so that we are able to give them a help before it was too late. Now it's your turn to analyze the other short story. This will be your first task in this new semester. You can pause this slide as long as you want while you are analyzing the story. And this is the structure that you can write on your notebook, the analysis of the dog and the shadow. Capture the result and send it via Google Classroom before the deadline, and don't be late. That's all from me for this time. I don't need you to like, comment, or subscribe if you don't want to. I just want you to pay attention to the lesson and ask me if you have any question about the material and give some suggestion so I can fix my next video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Love you. Bye.